Good morning, Minnesota. Welcome to the Coffee Talk on SSIS Statewide Release version 24.4. We got an action-packed agenda, so we're going to get right into it. Already did the welcome, and now for the introductions. Those that will be presenting today will introduce themselves. I am Ross. I am an e-learning instructional designer here with the SSIS User Support Group. We have housekeeping and Tennyson warning. We're going to do some announcements. We're going to go through the release information, and then we'll have some closing announcements. So stay tuned for those. As always, attendees have been muted. To speak, please raise your hand using the reaction emoji at the bottom of your screen, and you'll be unmuted by one of us. Questions can also be submitted using chat and will be monitored by our SSIS Business Ops staff. Closed captioning can be enabled using the CC button located at the bottom left of your screen. This session is going to be recorded and will be posted on the Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy website in the near future. And a follow-up documentation will be prepared and distributed to attendees 7 to 10 days before or following this event. Here's the Tennyson warning. Give you a couple minutes to read this over. Basically, since we're recording, if you do come on and your voice will be recorded and can be heard by others when they play it. So give you a couple minutes to look this over and then we'll get started. Hopefully that gave you enough time to look over the Tennyson warning. So we'll move on. And I'll pass it off to Cassie to talk about the pilot agencies.
Good morning, everybody. It's Cassie here with the Tier 1 Help Desk. We just wanted to take a moment and really extend a thank you to our pilot agencies that helped with piloting for this release. Anoka, Meeker, and Mower County worked really hard during this pilot. Every time an agency pilots, you guys are contributing to improving the system for all of the end users. And we just really can't express our gratitude enough for the work that you guys are doing. That being said, we are looking forward to the next release in January. I know that's a little ways out. So if you're interested in more information about piloting and what all that entails, or if you want to volunteer, reach out to me. My email address is on that slide. Otherwise, you can contact the help desk. Piloting is not meant to add a lot of extra work for your agency or for your workers. Most of the items can be that are checked kind of align with the daily work that's being done. So if you want more interest or more information, or you're interested, please reach out. We really appreciate Anoka, Meeker, and Mower for piloting this time. And we look forward to working with other agencies. Thank you.
Good morning, Minnesota. This is Eric Kratt, the supervisor for SSIS user support, and I wanted to also thank a couple of internal people here. It takes a team of people to ensure that our pilots run smooth. So I just wanted to extend a huge thank you to Marcia Riss and Cassie Navarrete, who has stepped out to help Marcia coordinate pilots in the future. So welcome, Cassie, to the grind. I want to thank our help desk, who takes in a lot of the troubleshooting. And I also want to thank our Minute partners who are at our pilot calls to help back up with some information and testing options. So a huge thank you internally as well.
Now it'll go to Heidi.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Heidi. I am excited to announce that our November Mentor of the Month is Maria Van Santen from Lake County. Per Kylie Dietz, I'd like to nominate Maria from Lake County. She's always willing to help, including rescheduling things if she has to in order to help with SSIS issues. And if she's unable to do that, she goes out of her way to find another mentor who can help instead of sending the person needing help on a wild goose chase to find another mentor to help. Maria is knowledgeable and organized so that she can help as efficiently as possible and is our own mini IT department. Thank you and congratulations, Maria. We're lucky to have you as one of our mentors. Anyway, if you have a special SSIS coordinator or mentor you'd like to have recognized at one of our upcoming coffee talks, feel free to send a nomination to me directly, along with a brief message on why you think they should be the next mentor of the month. And we will consider all applications that come forward and get back to you. Anyway, I will put my email address in the chat for any of you who would like to nominate another special mentor of the month. And Ross, back to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Heidi. Congratulations, Maria. And now we're going to pass it on to Eric to talk a little bit about Engagement HQ.
Hey everybody, Eric here again, just to follow up with some information that we had provided at last month's coffee talk. We have been able to get approval from our communications team over here at the Department of Children, Youth, and Families to post the website for Engagement HQ. The way that mentors and coordinators will find Engagement HQ for now is to navigate to the Social Service Information System page, the resource page. There's a screenshot of that up in the top left corner of this slide. And the link to our engagement and information site is at the top of that web page on Partner Link. The screenshot below that is just a screenshot of what the SSIS engagement and information site looks like. Right now, we do not have any engagement tools such as news feeds, surveys, idea boards, or forums. We will include those over time. And we will make those announcements using the SSIS update to engage with our SSIS mentor and coordinator population. For now, I invite everybody to click on the link and just kind of peruse the site. It's just kind of an enhanced version of what you see on the SSIS resource page on Partner Link right now, and a little bit about the SSIS section. Registration is not required for this site at the time. However, when we start to use Engagement HQ tools, such as the news feed or surveys, idea boards, and forums, it would be encouraged to register for the site, and there's a job aid that's listed on that up in the upper left-hand corner, the job aid for SSIS engagement and information, to walk you through how to register and sign into the site for when we have those engagement tools live and ready for you to engage with us. So last month it was coming soon. This month it has come to fruition. So have at it, take a look around and get to know the site. Back to you, Ross.
Thanks, Eric. Are we ready to get going? Well, let's get started. Marcia, go ahead.
Great. Good morning, everyone. This is Marcia Riss. I'm the SSIS Change and Engagement Consultant with SSIS Business Operations. So we wanted to start off, this isn't really specific to this SSIS pilot per se. However, it has come up and we want to make sure that people are aware. SSIS has had some agency reports about some increased difficulty for users when they're trying to update their passwords. So we are seeing that recently the regular updates that Microsoft makes have interacted with the remote desktop in SSIS and have made password changes a little more difficult for some users. So password changes due to things similar to, passwords changed to something too similar to an old password will be automatically rejected, and SSIS recommends that passwords differ by at least 3 characters when updating. Oh, I'm seeing some slides, some information saying the PowerPoint isn't there. I'm seeing it.
I was just going to say that, Marcia.
Yeah. I wonder, are you seeing it now? I turned off. Oh, now I see people saying they see it. I'm going to keep off my camera. We were going to try to keep the cameras on, but I'm going to try keeping it off. Maybe that's it. All right, I'm going to continue. Thank you. Okay, so SSIS has, where was I? We were seeing that recently the regular updates that Microsoft makes have interacted with that remote desktop and SSIS and have made passwords a little more difficult. So passwords changed to something that's too similar to an old password will be automatically rejected. SSIS recommends that passwords differ by at least 3 characters when updating. And the password rules, which have not changed, include that passwords must have at least 8 characters, have at least 1 lowercase, 1 uppercase, 1 digit, and 1 of the following special characters. So those that I have listed on the screen, no other special characters may be included. An error message will display to reject passwords when they are commonly used passwords, they are passwords that are being reused by the user, or passwords that are too close to a match of an old password. So these changes are not anything that SSIS has changed recently. They were not due to anything from this pilot. However, they are changes that are affecting some users due to the changes that Microsoft has made that's impacted SSIS passwords. So just want to make sure that people are aware. And we can go on. I think Andrea has the next slide.
Thanks, Marcia. Hi, this is Andrea. I'm an SSIS SME for the business integrations. Exiting SSIS when using the red X in the upper right-hand corner of the main SSIS screen now correctly allows for exiting. A warning message displays asking, are you sure you want to exit SSIS? This is meant to help avoid workers from accidentally closing out. Any messages for required fields or unsafe changes on the screen will display as normal before closing.
Right, I'm going to jump in here for a little technical issue that some of our mentors are facing. Ross, I'm wondering if you can stop sharing and reshare the presentation, please. Some of our mentors can't see the presentation. Thank you. The presentation is reshared. Can you see it now?
The other workaround might be that Heidi did send out the PowerPoint to everybody in a email this morning. So if you can't bring it up in the session here, you might be able to bring up your version and follow along.
Can we announce the slide number before we go into the material then? So if you want to find the email sent by Heidi Morris earlier today, we're on slide 11. Thank you.
Still Andrea?
I am, if you want to switch
All right.
to slide 12.
Okay.
After statewide release, you may need to go in and reattach RTF document headers to the QRTP assessment referral form and the APS reconsideration letters, as there have been some changes made to them. Be sure to reattach using the RTF document template header, not the document template editor, which is the second option. And I'm going to pass it to Erica P.
Hi, good morning. I'm Erica Peterson. I'm a child welfare subject matter expert in SSIS business operations. I have a few updates about general reports. So we're on slide 13. The time to initial contact with victims general report has a few updates and fixes. The report was updated to add a note to the print preview of the report that explains why there are sometimes discrepancies between this report and the Tableau time to initial contact report. I would like to note that best practice is to use the SSIS version of this report to identify and track time to initial contact with victims for all victims identified in child maltreatment reports. This report will also now correctly calculate the required timeline in hours, including when there are multiple victims with differing 24-hour response requirements. There was a previous issue in which duplicate rows appeared related to multiple intakes referred to the same assessment, but this issue has now been resolved. And we'll move on to slide 14. The maltreatment disposition summary report has been updated to reflect the addition of non-caregiver trafficking assessment reports, also known as NCA reports. The new section, non-caregiver trafficking assessments, will be similar to the family assessment section, but will only display totals for NCA reports. Of note, the no CPS needed value will display 0 as data cleanup prevents users from entering an NCA CMR in this way. However, this may change later. The case list report has been updated to display NCA in the CP report track column for any CMRs in the NCA track. The case list with clients report has been updated to display NCA in the CP report track column for any CMRs in the NCA report track. The CP assessments by worker report has also been updated to add a new section labeled non-caregiver trafficking assessments. This will work like the family assessment section, but only display totals for NCA reports. Also, there was a previous defect to this report where the report was not displaying work groups that did not have a primary worker assigned. This defect has now been resolved, so the report will now include all relevant work groups. A section labeled non-caregiver trafficking assessments has been added to the intake allegations CP track report. This will work like the family assessment section, but only display totals for NCA reports. Of note, this will only display a value for the row sexual abuse because NCA CMRs only allow this type of allegation. Lastly, the workgroup assignment report has been updated to display NCA in the current CP track column for any CMRs currently on the NCA report track. I believe next up is Allie.
Erica. Good morning, everyone. My name is Allie Tesmer. I'm a data integrity subject matter expert with the SSIS Business Operations team. And you should now be on slide number 15. The continuous placement grid report found under the placement folder within general reports now has 2 optional columns to assist with identifying missing AFCAR's required information. The 2 columns are the environment at removal and the ICWA columns. The environment at removal column is a way for agencies to be able to easily identify any continuous placements that do not have a required field completed. This field was added into SSIS as a required field within the last year. So continuous placements that began prior to the field becoming required may not have had this completed. This field corresponds to element number E71, environment at removal for AFCAR's errors that we have recently sent out email notifications on to many agencies. We recommend that all agencies check to ensure that all of their continuous placements that were open 1 day or more since April 1st of 2024 have this field completed. Add the optional column in the grid and click on the column header to sort by the column. Any blank means the field has not yet been completed. Please ask workers to enter the information on the continuous placement screen. Even if the continuous placement has been closed, this will not require the continuous placement to be reopened. The field can be completed and saved without reopening. The second new optional column that is now available using the continuous placement general report is the ICWA column. This column displays the ICWA eligibility determination chosen on the continuous placement. If none is chosen on the continuous placement, this column will appear blank for that continuous placement. This information being blank affects multiple AFCAR's elements, since having ICWA information chosen on the continuous placement allows the AFCAR's reporting to know which of the ICWA eligibility determinations should be used for various ICWA-related AFCAR's elements. If this is blank, we receive errors for each element that depends on this field. Add the optional column to the grid and click the column header to sort by column. Any blank means the field was left incomplete on the continuous placement. Please ask workers to enter the information on the continuous placement screen. This field is required upon closing a continuous placement. However, AFCAR's errors may already have been received for this before the continuous placement is closed if the field is left incomplete. Work with staff to ensure that this is completed as soon as possible after the continuous placement has been opened. And I will pass it back to Marcia.
Great, thank you. Just want to point out, because this is a change from some of the coffee talks that we've done recently, is we have added some question slides periodically throughout the presentation. So just want to let everyone know we're not ignoring the chat. We will address those at each of the question slides. So thank you. Just want to make sure you don't think we're ignoring. So this next slide, we are on slide 16, is on the new substance involvement option of fentanyl. So the substance involvement tab, which is on the diagnosis conditions substance folder, now includes fentanyl in the substance drop-down list. This has been both an agency specific enhancement request and was brought up during the SSIS review from this past spring. So has now been added. Next slide. So I have a couple of things on the screen here, a couple of they're slightly different data cleanup errors. So these are 2 data cleanup errors related to the expectant and parenting youth screen, or the EPY screen, and they have been updated. Both errors shown are related to AFCARS. Before AFCARS 2020, the changes that we made in the last couple of years, there was AFCARS 1993, which did not require us to include data on continuous placements that were open for less than 30 days. However, AFCARS 2020 has no such qualifier, and any continuous placement lasting 1 day or more is required to have all the AFCARS required fields completed in SSIS and included in the AFCARS reporting each period. So these are just 2 of the most recent data cleanup errors that we've updated to reflect this change. You will also see similar updates to various existing repository errors in upcoming releases. The 2 data cleanup errors pertaining to the EPY screen shown here come up when, so the first one on the left-hand side is when a youth that has a relationship as a parent in the parent-child relationship, in the relationship folder, and the youth who is in out-of-home placement does not have an EPY record, which indicates they have ever fathered or bore a child. So this may mean that they have no EPY record at all, or they have an EPY record, but it still currently says no for the question asking if the youth has ever fathered or bore a child, which wouldn't make sense if they also have a parent-child relationship as the parent in their relationship folder. So because those conflict, we now have an error that will catch that. And if a record exists, but there has been a change, such as the youth has recently had a child, the worker really should be going in and entering a new EPY screen. So if they have that screen, it says no, that was previously correct, they've had a child now, you really should go in and add a new EPY screen versus just updating that screen. The second error on the right side of the screen appears when a youth aged 10 or older either does not have an EPY record or does not have one that has the last review date field updated within the last 6 months. So remember, similar to out-of-home placement plan requirements, the EPY records are required to be updated every 6 months. So if no change to the responses on the previous EPY record, the worker really can just go in and update that last review date for the last EPY record, which will keep that record current. If there has been a change, such as the youth has had a child, then of course the user should go in and create that new EPY screen. All right, so this is our question slide. So I know we have a few questions. Cassie, do you want to read them out and hopefully we can run through them and answer them again? Thank you.
Yep. So I believe we have 2 questions. The rest of it was about the PowerPoint. The first one is saying, what I mean by never reusing unless I missed further up, what I mean by never reusing a previous SSIS password is that some other systems do not allow you to reuse the previous 12 or 24 passwords. Just wondering if there is a number for SSIS or never reuse a previous one. I did answer in the chat that we do not have a specific guideline on how long ago the passwords were used before they can be used again. This is a Microsoft change and we don't have the specifics, but we know it's impacting the passwords for SSIS. Do we have any more information on that?
No, I think that that's spot on. So what
Okay.
I can say is we don't know that it's going to impact everybody right away. It seems like some users are being impacted and some aren't. So I'm guessing that there is some type of a time frame, but Microsoft has not shared that, which they do not have to. They're just working to make things more secure. So if you get the error, we're giving you that heads up that you'll need to try something less similar, right, to a previous password.
All right. Thanks, Marcia. So the next question is, in the current version 24.3, the X doesn't turn red until you hover the mouse over the X. Will the X show up as red in 24.4 or will it only show as red when you hover over it? I actually was able to just test this and it looks like in 24.4, it turns red when you hover over it. All right, and then we did just get one more. Can you repeat? If I run the general report, continuous placement, and the ICWA and environment at removal sections are blank, does this mean they are not completed in the placement screens?
Correct. That's right. So Sonia, that will be, of course, after. You're not going to see right now, you're going to see those columns available, but we know they are blank until after you get the statewide release. So recheck that after you get the statewide release, because then those columns will be populated if there's anything to be populated. If they continue to be blank, that means those fields have not been completed in the continuous placement screen, not the placement screen, the continuous placement screen.
All right. Thanks, Marcia. That's all we have for questions right now.
All right, I think it continues with me then. So staff activity. So we have a few things here for staff activity. So first thing, wanted to talk a little bit about, so the defect that was impacting the various time fields in SSIS not to enable as expected after entering a date has been resolved. So that's all great. I know a lot of people were really wanting that to be resolved. However, there is a new defect. I think it will affect less people, but I did want to point this out. So there is a new defect. It has been found. We were unable to correct it before statewide. However, I do have it as high priority on our list for the next release, since we really want to get that fixed for those that are used to using entering the date this way. So the new defect occurs in contact activities, intake, CMR, AMR, so many other places where there's a date and time field. So what happens is it affects users that are entering a date by typing just the month and day, and then they either tab or click over to another field, expecting that the date would autofill the year for them. So that was what was previously occurring. It is not currently. Instead, what's going to happen with this defect is the year is not going to autofill. So when you tab or click out of the date, because the date isn't fully entered, it's going to delete what is there, which is going to be just your month and year, right? So it's going to tab over, delete that date. And what you're going to do is you're going to end up having to go back and enter that date. So just a reminder, other ways of entering the date are enter the full date, so the month, day, and year. Enter the date using the spacebar, which will enter today's current date. You can also enter the date using the date picker. All of those work just fine, just like usual. So it's just for those users who are used to having it autofill the year. It's not going to do that. We do have that as a defect and hope to have that fixed in the next release. So wanted to make sure people are aware of that. Next slide. So the next one is some enhancements that we've been working on. So we have several things coming out of this last spring's SSIS review. So another enhancement that came about is one that's going to affect your contact activities, which will now display the age or estimated age for all participants in both the regarding and contact with sections. A star is going to appear next to the age. It's going to be right before the age if the age is an estimated age. So you always know if that's the actual age that's been entered, the actual date of birth age, or it's based on an estimated age. No age will display if there's no age or estimated age, which might be the case for a collateral or a professional collateral, right? Because clients, of course, require you to have an age or estimated age. So this enhancement was requested to assist users in being able to easily identify if they're choosing the correct client, child, or adult, which can be especially difficult in families with more than one person with the exact same name. So hopefully this is a nice little tool for people now. And let's go on to the next one. So the next one, another enhancement, an active efforts checkbox. So you see that highlighted there at the top of the screenshot, is now available at the top of the contact activities to assist workers and agencies that choose to use it in tracking notes that include active efforts details. This is another enhancement that came out of the spring SSIS review and has been a long time requested by agencies. It does not, so I want to reiterate, it does not replace the need to enter active efforts details in the note, nor does it replace the requirement to enter that information, that summary information on the ICWA active efforts screen. This is not a required field. Rather, it's a tool that users and agencies can choose to use or not to help them with tracking their contact activity notes that contain active efforts. So there's going to be, and I'm going to talk about those in the next couple of slides as well, there's going to be some corresponding columns available in various grids that can pull the active efforts. So you can filter out to find all of your notes that have active efforts if you're using this checkbox for both the user activity log and chronology grid. So this could assist users and agencies in locating active efforts related notes, either ICWA or the MAFPA, the Minnesota African American Family Preservation Act related, if you're choosing to use them for those, to help with summarizing information in the active efforts screens, printing summary of active efforts, or finding specific active efforts related notes within many notes. Again, this is not a required field. Rather, it's been a tool that agencies and users can decide to use or not. And next slide. All right. So multiple enhancements were made to the chronology grid, all also related to the SSIS review. The enhancements that you see here are included. So the time note filter checkbox you see at the top in red, located above chronology grid, will now default to being unchecked. So this should help to avoid a lot of user confusion about differences on time note date and time entries as compared to the corresponding activity or contact that they created. So remember, time notes are a time-stamped version of the activity or contact, which contains the date or time of the entry, not necessarily the date that the user said the activity occurred when they entered their activity. So there is a difference. It often causes confusion. We're going to default that to being unchecked, but it's still available if you choose to view it. The next one is the active efforts column has been added as a default column to the chronology grid. So you can see it there in green. You can certainly take that out of there if you are an agency or a user who chooses not to use that. If it's just taking up space, you can remove that by using your column chooser. And then in the chronology grid, the long description column has been replaced with the purpose column. This is another long time request from agencies to make this a little bit more searchable using the chronology grid. So the purpose column will now show the text from the purpose line of contacts and activities and the text entered in the comment subject line of case notes. So it makes it more searchable. The long description, which it is replacing, used to not show the purpose line text that was in activities. And so that made it a little bit less useful. So we've replaced that, and hopefully this is going to be a helpful tool as well. Next slide. Chronology grid enhancements. So another chronology grid enhancement is the activity column has been added as an optional column to the chronology grid. So like I just said, with that change from the long description to the purpose line column, well, that removed the ability to view the activity on activities. And so what we've done is we've added a new column so that users who do want to view the activity for their contacts and activities can do that in a separate column. So the activity column has been added as an optional column to the chronology grid. You can use the column chooser, which is shown here by the green arrow, to get the grid's column options. Check the new activity field if you want to have that column displayed. Of course, here's where you can check or uncheck other columns as well to decide what's going to display within your grid. The activity column will display whatever the activity field was chosen on the contact or activity. Documents and case notes do not include an activity field, so the row is going to appear blank for those item types. And time notes will display the activity from the associated contact activity. All right. User activity log enhancements. So again, these all kind of go hand in hand together with our staff activity items. So like chronology, the active efforts column has been added as a default column to the user activity log grid. So you can see that in red towards the left of the grid. If you prefer not to use that active efforts column, if you're not going to be using the active efforts checkbox on the notes, just FYI, just like any other of the default columns, you can use that column chooser, which you see highlighted on the left, to uncheck the column to remove it from the grid. So a little tip, because we often get questions about some of these things, and this is one of the benefits of having this active efforts column for agencies who are wanting to get at some of that data. So we have had multiple agencies looking for ways to better track time spent on active efforts. So one way agencies may want to use this is by having staff use that new checkbox to indicate when they're doing active efforts in their contacts and activities. Then they can use that user activity log, new active efforts column, and add the duration column and a footer under the duration column to sum the total time spent. And voila, you can pretty quickly indicate how much time a worker has spent on active efforts for a specified time period. You could also go so far as to add groupings by the work group column to get the total time spent for active efforts per work group. So we've had agencies ask about those kinds of things over the years. So this is just one of those ways that that active efforts checkbox and the new columns might be used. Again, not required, but it's an option. All right. So next one, I think, is Erica.
Thanks, Marcia. So work group labels have now been updated to include the NCA track. This will just help to differentiate NCA work groups from other CP assessment work groups. All NCA work groups will now be labeled as CP NCA assessments, and this will appear both in the tree view and the name field on the work group tab. And I'm going to pass it right back to you, Marcia.
All right. So a couple more, or actually I think one more here. So a data cleanup that indicates work group close, a client in this work group has an open continuous placement. This error is no longer going to display nor prevents closing a work group if the work group is not the currently selected associated work group on the open placement location or absence. So that was a defect that had been an issue. It will now only apply to the work group currently associated to the placement. This defect was found in a release earlier this year and has been resolved with this statewide release. All right, any additional questions?
We did have one question that came in asking to explain active efforts. And Eric put a good little brief description that active efforts are described in the Indian Child Welfare Act as important steps in providing remedial services and rehabilitative programs to prevent the breakup of the Indian family. He also said that there are many resources online that outline differences between reasonable efforts and ICWA active efforts. I do want to add to that, if you have further questions, please send a ticket into the help desk and we'll get you connected with those resources so that you're not blindly searching for them if you can't find them on your own. And that goes for anybody that has questions regarding that. That's all we have in the chat so far.
I think it goes over to Anna. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Chalupka, and I am a training specialist with the SSIS user support team. And I have a few updates about the SSIS adult protection. So we're on slide 28. All right, so the field is the maltreatment continuing, now displays on the adult maltreatment report victim information tab and the AMR printed report. So AB partners who received a MARC report as LIA should see all information obtained by MARC within their system. Consistency between MARC report and county SSIS is a priority. Next slide. So a few things to note about the is maltreatment continuing field when referring a new intake work group to an existing assessment work group. If the assessment work group is the maltreatment continuing field is a no, and the intake is yes, the assessment work group field will update to yes. If the assessment work group is yes, and the intake is no, then the assessment work group field will remain yes. If the assessment work group is blank and the intake is valued either yes or no, then the assessment work group field will update to the intake field value. And if both the assessment and the intake work group have the same value, the assessment work group field will remain as is. Next slide, slide 30. So when you are detaching a referred intake work group that changed the assessment work group field value, just a reminder that it will not reset the field value to the original setting. And you will see a text box that and this is what it looks like. And the text has been added to the warning message box when detaching an intake work group regarding the maltreatment continuing. So for more information about is the maltreatment continuing field, please look out for the December 2024 edition of the Adult Protection SSIS User Guide. It should be published sometime mid to late December of 2024. Okay. The next item is regarding the APS reconsideration letter. So the letter now has 4 versions, and which will automatically be selected based on the responses within the setup tab. So it is whether the recipient is a person alleged responsible or victim, and then also in the maltreatment redetermination if it's affirmed or rescinded. And then make sure that you are reattaching the RTF document headers to the letter. So I added a link to the job aid on how to add the document header in this slide. Okay. So the next 2 slides are regarding the what was discovered as defects and now have been resolved. So this slide right here is about the AMR shared comments tab. So an error message no longer displays when typing or pasting text over 4,000 characters. This includes carriage returns. The text correctly truncates at the 4,000 character limit. And the next defect that's resolved is in the AMR interventions tab. The delete option is now disabled. Okay, any questions? All right, thank you so much.
Before we move on, there was something that got brought up from a previous section that I thought was good to bring back up. There was just I was asked to do a little reminder. So For those that are using, we talked a little bit about the change in the purpose line and being able to have that purpose information show up. It had been brought to our attention that some agencies were entering information in the contact with section, even when there wasn't contact with, but literally just to get the purpose line information to show up. Please don't do that. And you don't have to do that anymore. Having the purpose line show the information, even if it's just an activity, if there's not a contact with section other than the purpose line completed, it's going to show up in your chronology grid now. So just want to make sure that people are aware. If your agency is one of the agencies that was entering contact with in order to get the purpose line to show, even when there wasn't a contact, we're going to ask you, don't do that, please. You should now be able to use the purpose line regardless if there was a contact. Thank you.
And next we'll have Erica come back on.
Thank you, Ross. Okay, there are just a few additional updates pertaining to the non-caregiver assessment track. First, the current/prior CP activity report now reflects the NCA non-caregiver track. And next, the help text in the conclusions tab of the assessment CMR, the help text that is under the family support services requested has been updated to include NCA information as well. And then I believe it's back to Marcia.
Great, thanks, Erica. So we wanted to point out another defect that was resolved. So the ICWA eligibility determination is once again no longer required to be entered by initiative tribes when they're saving their continuous placements. So there's no change for non-initiative tribes. We do want you to enter those. You do need to have that before you can close for sure, but as soon as possible is better. But for non-initiative for initiative tribes who are entering placement information into SSIS, that defect has been resolved and you shouldn't be required to enter that ICWA information on your continuous placements any longer. Another update that we have made to the supplemental eligibility folder. So the prevention services or foster care candidacy folder, as it was previously called, has been updated to say prevention services candidacy. All references to foster care candidacy have been removed from SSIS. These were put into the system in 23.4 with the intention of eventually completing the foster care candidacy determinations in SSIS. However, this is no longer the plan per policy, and agencies should continue to complete the foster care candidacy determination using the DHS 5410 outside of SSIS. The Prevention Services Candidacy folder should only be created to determine eligibility for Title 4E prevention services, which currently includes motivational interviewing and parents as teachers prevention services. And then I'm going to kick it off to Andrea.
Thank you, Marcia. A new state pilot special study is now available for the Minnesota African American Family Preservation Act, or MAFPA. The pilot duration will be from 1/1/2025 to 12/31/2026. This is for Ramsey and Hennepin counties. It will take effect for the rest of the state starting on 1/1/2027.
Andrea, Allie?
Yep, thanks, Ross. All right, so we are excited to announce that there are 3 new repository errors that were added to the 25.1 SSIS release to assist agencies with catching some required AFCARS data. The first one is error number 4110, and this is regarding the current removal adoption TPLPC history screen required. This has been added related to AFCARS, and this error will display for children in placement or who have been in placement for 1 day or more in the last year, who have either no removal adoption TPLPC screen history entered, or the last review date of the existing removal adoption TPLPC history screen is not dated within the most recent continuous placement. The next repository error added is number 4120, professionally determined conditions information for a child in continuous placement. has been added related to AFCARs once again. This error will display for children in placement or who have been in placement for 1 day or more in the last year, who have either no professionally determined condition screen or has a professionally determined condition screen with no professional assessment status entered, or with a professional assessment status of client has diagnosed condition, but no current selections on the screen of conditions that apply. And the third new error is number 4130, the current EPY screen required. This error will display for children who are 10 years of age and older and in placement, or who have been in placement for 1 day or more in the last year, who do not have an EPY record or do not have an EPY record with a last review date that is within 6 months before the most recent continuous placement end date, or if the continuous placement is still open within 6 months prior to the date the repository is run. I believe we have a place for questions here.
So far, nothing in the chat.
Okay.
Remember, if you want to ask questions, you can raise your hand and we'll give you the ability to ask your question verbally as well as using the chat.
All right, then I'll pass it out to Holly.
Good morning. This is Holly Reller for SSIS Fiscal. We are on slide 41. State reports FMAP rates. FMAP is the share of state Medicaid benefit costs paid by the federal government. It also determines the federal share of Title IV foster care and adoption assistance maintenance payments. The FMAP is based on a 3-year average of state per capita personal income compared to the national average. There is a slight decrease of 0.33 for federal fiscal year 2025 in Minnesota, moving the FMAP from 51.49% to 51.16% effective 10/1/2024. There is no change in the tribal FMAP rate, and it remains at 83%. Then we're moving on to State Reports Child Foster Care Report. There has been an increase allowed for educational transportation 4E claims with service type T. This increase has gone from 150 per day to 750 per day for 4E claims. The screenshot here shows the 4E service type displayed as T for educational transportation, and the maximum allowed under the claim details section shows 750. This applies to each date of service for the maximum daily allowable amount to be claimed through 4E reimbursement. The payments for these claim types use special cost code 15, educational transportation pre-K to 12 only. Minnesota 4E program policy implemented the change as there historically has never been an increase in the maximum allowable amount, and transportation costs to get children in placement to school have largely increased across the state. The change applies to any claims that are generated in the state child foster care report after release 24.4 goes out. So claims starting with the next Q4 report will apply this increase. As a reminder, there must be a matching 4E foster care maintenance claim for the dates of service to claim educational transportation. I will pass it now to Sam.
This is Sam Breidenbach, Fiscal Subject Matter Expert on the SSIS Business Operations team. I will be continuing with SSIS Fiscal for the CFCR Child Count additions on slide 43. As part of the FFPSA project, there were changes required to be made in the federal CB496 report that is used by the state's Financial Operations Division to receive Title IV reimbursement. The 4E setting type is now required to be reported for both claims and child counts to our federal partners. A new field has been added to child foster care claims that will apply to claims generated in the state child foster care report after this release. New child count lines were added on the child count ratios and the child count detail tabs of the CFCR for this. On the child count ratios and child count detail tabs of the CFCR, lines G through J will break out the 4E setting types reported on line A for a 4E eligible and reimbursable child. New lines K through N break out the 4E setting types reported on line D for a 4E eligible and reimbursable Indian child. And CFCR new child count lines. This slide shows the new breakdown by 4E setting type that will apply to lines A and D for 4E eligible and reimbursable children. The 4E setting types are the same for both the 4E child count and the 4E Indian child count. As noted on the previous slide, Native American children who are counted in the Indian child count breakdown with line D will also be included as line A, as this is a subset of the 4E eligible and reimbursable child count data. CFCR Child Count Ratios tab. This slide shows a screenshot of the Child Count Ratios tab on the CFCR with the new child count types included for lines G through N. This is included here as a visual reference to show the new lines that will display on the state report. CFCR Child Count Detail tab. This slide shows the Child Count Detail tab of the CFCR with the group by box sorting the grid by the child count type field. The lines G through N are included here for child count detail where data is provided. You will notice that lines J and N are not shown here because the child foster care report is not yet programmed to include substance abuse treatment facilities with payments using Brass Code 172. Substance abuse treatment facilities will be reported for children co-located with a parent receiving substance use disorder treatment, otherwise known as SUD claims, and those claim types will be added to the child foster care report in a future release. These claims are currently being manually processed by Financial Operations Division. When SUD claims have been added to the CFCR and when there is detail to include for those lines, it will display here on this tab for lines J and N. CFCR 4E setting type. The new 4E setting type field includes values of foster family home, non-specified setting childcare institution, specified setting childcare institution, substance abuse treatment facility, not applicable, and blank. The 4E setting type field only applies to child foster care claims with service dates on or after 9/30/2021 when FFPSA was implemented in Minnesota. The value will be not applicable for North Star claims that are not claiming 4E. The way the 4E setting type is calculated by the system is included here on this screen, and this claim field cannot be edited by agencies. The setting type uses the earliest claim service dates for the month and will apply the setting type based on that payment and placement. If the setting type changes later in the month, the child will still only be counted once in the earliest claim setting type, and this will not be recalculated. A script will be run to set the 4E setting type for older claims generated in prior reports using the service dates 9/30/2021 through 9/30/2024, including claims from the most recent submission to the state on the Q3 2024 CFCR. This work will be completed by minute and no action is needed from counties or tribes for this value to be set on the older claims. CFCR 4E recoveries, slide 48. As part of the FFPSA work with 4E setting types that now apply for federal reporting, the 4E recoveries tab of the Child Foster Care Report was updated to allow agencies to report the type of recovery they have to Financial Operations Division. The 4 types of recoveries are the same as the 4E setting types: foster family home, non-specified setting childcare institution, specified setting childcare institution, and substance abuse treatment facility. There were several fields updated on the 4E remittance advice tab to incorporate the 4E recoveries changes that now allow more than one entry per quarter. These fields include the 4E recovery amount, the FFP recovery amount, the net 4E maintenance amount, the FFP maintenance reimbursement amount, and the FFP total reimbursement amount. These changes are included on the back end in these calculations to allow multiple entries for recoveries, and they do not impact the way the fields display in SSIS. Programs and services, Brass Code 144. Housing services now includes the workgroup type assessment for time reporting, along with case management work groups that were already included prior to this release. This is effective 10/1/2024, as shown in the screenshot on the slide from SSIS admin. If using this for staff time, the date on the time record must be on or after 10/1/2024 for an assessment work group to be associated. The default state settings for this code are also included on this slide. For agencies that wish to use 144 on staff time records, the County Settings tab for the service can be updated in admin to change staff provided to yes. Once the settings have been saved, it will override the existing Service Details tab to allow your county settings to take priority. And slide 50, healthcare claiming ICD-10 diagnosis codes. Annual maintenance work was included in this release for ICD-10 diagnosis codes to match changes made by MMIS. These changes are required by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, otherwise known as CMS. This work included 324 adds, 14 revisions, and 36 deletions, or end dates that were applied as of 9/30/2024. Of these, 26 new codes that have been added are mental health billable, 1 revision was made for a description change, and 4 codes were ended as of 9/30/2024 that were previously mental health billable. An updated job aid for the ICD-10 mental health billable diagnosis codes has been posted, and an article will be released with this information in the next SSIS update. And then one final item, I did not include a separate slide for this, but wanted to mention, there was additional maintenance work with this release required to be completed annually for the Seeger State Report. This requires copying the previous calendar year's revenue tables over to the new calendar year, so 2025 state reports can be created and submitted for Seeger reimbursement with Financial Operations Division. There are no changes to the Seeger user display. It is just required maintenance work that must be completed annually, so users are able to generate and submit reports in the next calendar year, starting with Q1 2025. That is all we have for fiscal. We can take a brief pause for questions. And if anyone wants to raise their hand too, feel free to unmute, or we can unmute you.
Looks like no questions in the chat at this time.
Thank you, Cassie. We can move on to our AFCARS update then. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sam. So we wanted to give an AFCARS update since we've done our recent submissions. So we're very happy to share that the final resubmission of the AFCARS 24A reporting period, and that's the reporting period that covered October 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2024, both the out-of-home care and adoption files. There's always 2 sides to each AFCARS files. They were compliant. So making the 24A reporting period Minnesota's first compliant AFCARS reporting period since the start of AFCARS 2.0. On top of this, our initial submission of the 24B reporting period, which covers the dates of April 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2024. That reporting period was completed for both the out-of-home care and adoption files as well and submitted on November 8th, 2024, so just earlier this month. And for the first time, we were also compliant on our very initial submission of a reporting period. So for months, we've really focused on primarily on the 24A reporting period and trying to get errors fixed to get into compliance. However, as we got closer to that, we ran that 24B file to give us a better picture of where we stood. And with just a couple weeks to go before that report was due, we found that we were so close to compliance. So we did do a last mad dash over the 2 weeks prior to November 8th. And thankfully, and thanks to several responsive agencies, including our fantastic pilot partners this release, we were able to get into compliance for this reporting period as well. So a huge thank you to all of our agency partners who worked really hard to resolve identified AFCARS errors, followed up as timely as possible to the several rounds of email notifications that we sent over the last several months in efforts to help push us over that line and into compliance for both of those reporting periods. Your efforts really paid off. So as noted earlier, we are continuing to add AFCARS related repository errors that we hope will replace the need for those email notifications. Agencies should continue to run their SSIS repository reads, the validate only reads, monthly, and work to correct those errors so that we're not having to do those mad dashes. You're not having to do those mad dashes at the end. If you have any questions or are having trouble with resolving any of the specific errors that you're seeing on those reports, send those questions to the help desk and we can assist further as needed. But really great job. We wanted to give everybody a big kudos. Thank you so much for all your hard work. It paid off. Thank you. And I think it's back to you, Ross.
Thanks, Marcia. All right. Well, we're back to the time where we remind you of your SSIS resources. So please visit the SSIS resource page where you will find our new SSIS engagement and information links. And you'll find the 24.4 release information, what's new, release notes, known defects, and your SSIS worker documentation and fiscal documentation. If you have questions or you need additional information related to this coffee talk, please reach out to our SSIS help desk. And to view previous SSIS Coffee Talk recordings and the reference materials, visit the Minnesota Child Welfare Academy SSIS training site. Save the date for our next December Coffee Talk, which is going to be our SSIS Year at a Glance on Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 from 9 to 10:30 a.m. as usual. And there will be more information coming soon. We want to thank you for taking the time this morning to share with us and to receive this wonderful information about the release. And stay golden, Minnesota. Radio Ross out.